See him, but then I cut it for 4 times because I didn't know that they were gonna start about Metzia.
Okay.
You didn't get much sleep?
Okay.
Here. Oh, you're right.
We're going to start. Open up a new Gemara. All these papers fall out. Interesting things from a few years ago. Okay. So we start Shnai Meichsen. Sagt about Metzia. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. It's chus of a learning we should have. We should English immediately. We're learning in the chus of Zahava Golda Basbar Binyamin, and also it's chus that whoever needs a refuah shleima should have refuah shleima. Okay, let's jump right in. Shnai Meichsen B'Talis. It's 2 people that are holding a talis. Why are they holding a talis? Because they found it. The discussion of finding things is really chapter 2, and Tosfos discusses that they put this should have been after chapter 2, which is Elam Metzias, the things that you find. This was put before.
That they found it?
Yeah. You'll see in a second. This one says I found it. This one says I found it. So apparently, when you find things without a simon, you can keep it. This one says it's all mine. This one says it's all mine. The Gemara will explain why it's repeating it if it sort of said it already. I found it, obviously means it's mine. So the halacha is there's a whole discussion why we'll see in the Gemara later, but why they make like this negative type oath that I don't have any less than half. So each one is going to swear. This one also swears that I don't have any less than half. And then they divide it. The Gemara, when we turn the page, will discuss why can they just divide it without the oath. We'll see. We're going to go through a few possibilities, and then we're going to say that this is a Takanas Chachamim, this oath. It's not an oath like regular oaths that we have in court. If you want to do this, then to make someone swear, you have, or to what causes an oath. We'll see. It's a different sort of oath. Let's say Zemer Kulashli v'Zemer Chetzishli. This one says that it's all mine, and this one says that I admit that I only have half.
How is that possible? Was he a shaita? You picked up the talis. It says only half mine.
So
once you pick it up the first, then it's all yours.
Right. So apparently half was still on the floor. So when he picked up the guy picked up the first half, he runs over, it's still half on the floor, and he picks up the other half.
So what if the half is on the floor?
Yeah, okay, where's the professor? We need props. But
anyhow, I won't bother you.
Yeah, we'll see. There is a possibility. We'll see that it could be talking about business, right? Buying and selling. We'll see in the Gemara. But Tosfos' question over here is, why doesn't he have amigo? We should believe him.
It was your question.
We should believe him when he says half is mine, 100%, because he could have said it's all mine. And we know that if you could have claimed something, so we give you the strength of that claim. So look at what happens in the halacha. It says, the one that says it's all mine, he swears that he doesn't have any less than 3/4. And the one that says half is mine, he swears that he doesn't have less than 1/4. This one takes 3/4, this one takes 1/4. Now, why does it have to be like that? He should be believed. He should really take half. He should be believed that if he wanted, he could have said, also. Tosfos says that we don't say amigo lahaitzi. This is the source of that. You don't say amigo to extract money. Yeah. Anyway, okay. This is sort of repetitive. This is repeating what we just learned, that if there's 2 people that are fighting over something, we're going to divide it. An oath. 2 people are riding on an animal, and each one's claiming based on that I rode it first. We found an animal, and I jumped on it. Or one of them is riding it and one of them is leading it by the rope, by the reins. This one says that it's all mine. I found it first, basically. This one says it's all mine. This one swears that it doesn't have any less than half, and then they divide it. Yeah.
In that case, the one that's put in wouldn't have the acquisition.
Right.
Me. Sir,
Riding and pulling is both an equal acquisition. That's what the Mishnah is teaching us. We have to see what this is talking about. If they agree, or if there are witnesses, then they divide it without an oath. Okay. Gemara starts off with why does the Mishnah have to repeat itself? I found it, it's all mine, Just say once, I found it, and that's it. Just say one of those. The Gemara says, it's actually really only one statement. He says, I found it and it's all mine, and I says, I found it all mine. The Gemara asks, but listen, just say, and that would be enough. He found it, then it's his. Why does it have to say, I found it, and it's all mine? If we would have said ani mitzasiya, so now we're going to play with the word mitzasiya. Mitzasiya means I found it. I found it. Matzasi, I saw, right? Mitzasiya, I found it. Hava amina, I would have said, my mitzasiya, what does it mean? I found it. Risiya, I saw it. Afagav liyasli, even though he didn't actually pick it up, riyabal makani. We could think that maybe what the person is thinking is that even though I didn't I didn't pick it up. The fact that I saw it first means I acquired it. And he thinks that he acquired it with that. So when he claims that I found it, maybe he didn't really pick it up. So he has to say kula shli, so tana kula shli. He has to say that, no, it's all mine, to tell us when he says all mine, he's really saying that I picked it up first. The Beria Lekani, because seeing it itself is not enough. The Gemara asks. The Gemara is going to ask in a moment, so just say kula shli without mitzasiya, right? Because then we would know that he picked it up. But the Gemara says, are you really able to say that my mitzvah risiya? That what is the meaning of I found it? It means that I saw it. But Rav Noi says, or maybe it's Ravina, matzasa dasli adi mashma. We had this in Baba Kama recently. That if you find a lost object, so if it belongs to a Jew, then you have to return it. If it belongs to a non-Jew, you don't have to return it. Gemara had a thought that maybe if it belongs to a non-Jew, you don't have to return it. That means that you're allowed to walk by it without picking it up. But it doesn't mean that if you picked it up, you don't have to return it. Maybe if you pick it up, you do have to return it. It's just that you're allowed to ignore it and not take on that responsibility of finding the owner, because it's the whole job to go find the owner. So the Gemara says that no. Since it says a matzasa, that you found it, and still it says aveda sachicha, only the lost object of your brother. What that means is that even if you picked it up, if it's your brother's, do you have to return it? But if you didn't, but if it's not your brother, then you don't have to return it, even though you already picked it up and it went under your responsibility to find out who the owner is. But if it's a non-Jewish item, you don't have to return it. Well, where do I get that from? From the word matzasa, which teaches me that you picked it up, even if you picked. So the Gemara is asking like this: you're trying to tell me that matzasa would mean that I saw it. The Gemara in Baba Kama, at least when we learned it, and further on also, says matzasa means that you picked it up, not that you saw it. It's the whole point of a matzasa, that even though you picked it up. So how could you tell me that matzasa means that I saw it? The Gemara says you're right. Matzasa dekra, when it says the word matzasa in the pasuk, that's liyadi mashma. That means that you actually picked it up. That means that it came into your hands. That there's actually physical contact with it. Yotana, however, the Tana, lishna dalma nakat, he's just taking the way people talk, the vernacular. Midachazile amar, and when he sees it, he says, "Ana ashkachas, I found it." That's the way people talk. They saw it. They say, "I found it." Even though it didn't come into his hands, Bria Bal Makani, he would think that he would acquire it with just seeing it. Yeah, I'm sure they have things in science where people said that I discovered it first, and other one says I discovered it first.
Yeah,
And,
Al Gore says he made the web.
oh, yeah.
It
So
seems- it seems like the important thing here is not what he said, but that each of them is a muksak. I'm wondering why all this verbiage, because he's a muksak. That's the issue, isn't it?
the issue is that he's a muhsak, yeah, but that's the point. That if he would have just, if it would have just said matzasa, then there would have been an interesting argument, where maybe one of them means that I picked it up first, and one of them means I saw it first, and then one of them is the muhsak and one of them isn't.
But if I walked up to you and said, the shirt you're wearing is mine,
Right,
you don't need to explain how you acquired it.
right,
You're in possession.
right.
Now the burden's on me to prove something. I guess the problem here is they're both saying, they're both muksak. I guess that's the
They're both,
issue.
right now, they're probably both holding it, but when they claim that who found it first, maybe that one spotted it first and one picked it up first.
Okay.
They're walking into best and holding it. Now we don't have clarity on what happened originally. Yeah. Yeah, it throws us off a little bit, the fact that this is in chapter 1 and not in chapter 2. Because we didn't get into what item you're allowed to keep, what item you have to give back. That would have been the first discussion, and that would have like really fit in properly. You know, which items you're allowed to. That's the second chapter starts. Which items you have to announce.
They added it as like a continuation of the last.
That's the explanation. Why did they mess up the order? Is because they were trying to continue Baba Kama, and there was a discussion at the end of Baba Kama about who keeps what, and or other things. There's different opinions. What? Okay.
Could you be quite a something half? You have a Kenyan of half?
Yeah,
but
it could be shutfim where two people pick
No.
something up.
when he picks it up,
It could be
it could be kind
shutfim.
of half.
Yeah.
But his intention is to own the whole thing.
Right.
So how do you share half?
But he didn't make a kinyan on the whole thing. The other guy got the other half first.
What do you mean? What do you mean he didn't lift it up?
He didn't lift it up. Lifted up half of it.
Do you consider a
It's
Kenyan
hanging
for
on the
half?
floor. Yeah. It's hanging on the floor.
Isn't a Kenyan only when you do the full thing? You can't do a half a Kenyan. You can't do a half. You can do a Kenyan on half.
Maybe a very long garment. Very long garment.
Right.
He picks up half. He acquires whatever he picked up.
Why? It's
Then
the
you
whole
slice it.
garment. You can't do it. Not a Kenyan.
Scarf.
Not a Kenyan.
Uh-huh.
If you're coin of something, you have to coin it all the way.
Uh-huh.
Like a
I don't understand the half.
All the way, baby. We don't understand half here. We go all the way.
We're going for a full
Full
month.
throttle, baby. We don't understand halfway. I don't understand.
Apparently, there is a concept of acquiring half. Right.
Not to us.
Okay.
Rabbi, question?
Yeah.
Question?
Oh, no, you have to
When someone's wearing a talus and it
Yeah.
starts to fall off their shoulder, if it falls off halfway, but it's still partially on theirs, they still own, so to say, that bracha and don't have to be mabarach again, only if the
Right.
whole thing falls off. So it seems
Right.
very similar here. All right, bye.
Uh-huh. 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 I hear. We're gonna see that we're talking about where you're holding the edges, the over here when he's not really wearing it. One guy's holding the fringes on one side, one guy's holding the fringes on the other side. If he's holding the actual garment, actual material itself, the Gemara's gonna say, well, the part that he's holding is for sure his.
So this is not Mashiach. They're not coining it for Mashiach.
It's kind of bagba.
But
Remind me, I think it was King David about dividing the kid in half.
There's King Solomon, right?
Any connection there? No?
I told you this. I was in JCC in Pennsylvania. Anyway, there was a coach over there that wasn't two coaches. One of them was an ex-yeshiva bacher, and the other guy was a non-Jew. So they see me. They says, "Hey, I went to yeshiva." So the other coach says, "You didn't tell me that. What did you study in yeshiva?" He said two guys holding a talus. This one says it's mine. This one says it's mine. It's well, what happened? So they said King Solomon just cut it in half.
Well, according to this, Hagbah has to be the whole item. It has to be Gimel Tzachim. There's a
Right. So
price
here,
on
so what would happen if it's a long item? It's a big roll of
Until
cloth,
he-
and he picks up the
he
one
has-
and three
He
tefachim.
doesn't make the difference. He didn't
It's not kind of what's in his hand.
No. It says that the completion of the Hagbah is lifting it up from the air 3 dropping.
Let's say part of it is on the floor and part is in his hand. No, we have. It says first that if half is on the floor.
I don't know. He's saying in general that for a Kenyan of Hagbah has to be 3 tefachim.
Right, I understand. Okay, he picks up 3 tefachim. The question is, what about the rest of it that's hanging on the floor?
The other guy also did.
The other guy lifted up 3 tefachim.
Who's the he first?
There's 2 people arguing here. So one guy said I picked it up. One guy said I picked it up. The whole thing. Okay. So now the Gemara asks the big question. Tani kula shali debri abam kanila. Okay, the Gemara asks the question. If you're just trying to avoid the claim that I saw it because I saw it is not a real Kenyan, if that's what you're trying to avoid, and therefore we're saying kula shali that it's all mine. Kula shali implies that I actually picked it up. So just say I picked it up. Kula shali, I picked it up, and then avoid ani mitzvah. When it says itana kula shali, have a mina ba'alma diktani mitzvah bria ba'al makani. But we're worried about the rest of Shas over here. That if it would have said only an akula shali, then what about in the rest of Shas when it says the rest of the Gemaras where the Mishnayos where it says mitzvah, it says I found it. I could have thought that maybe that means that I saw it. I have other cases where he says I found it. I could have thought that meant I saw it. So here we have both together, mitzvah and kula shali, to teach me that it's only considered his if he actually picked it up. To teach me that I don't acquire it just from seeing it. So this, like our Mishnah, is like teaching me something for the rest of Shas. Okay. Are we really able to say that it's one case? That he says I found it and it's mine? It says Vaha Zevazektani. It doesn't say that. It says this one says and it goes back and it says it again. It sounds like it's 2 separate cases. I mean, it could easily sound that it's 2 separate cases. It could have just said this one says I found it and it's all mine, and it doesn't say that. It says this one says I found it. This one says I found it. This one says it's all mine. Okay. So Amar Rav Papa Vitem Rav Simi Barashi V'Amrila Kedi. Rav Papa said, some say that it's Rav Simi Barashi, and some say that it was Kedi. Now, Kedi could mean the name of a Tana, and Kedi could also mean anonymous. It could be a proper noun. It could be just it was said anonymously. Reisha b'Metzia v'Seifa b'Mekach Memkar. Actually, the Mishnah has 2 cases here. It's condensing both cases into one because the halacha is the same. This one says I found it. This one says I found it. The second case is this one says I bought it, and this one says I bought it. Now, the obvious question when he says he bought it is when he asks the seller who he sold it to. Each one's walking out of the store, holding one end of the item and says, I bought it, I bought it, right? And if they're arguing over this, so why don't you just go back inside and see what the seller says? The Gemara is going to explain that in a moment. But whatever the case is, I need both cases to tell me that they divided with an oath when he found it and when he bought it. Both of those cases, both of those arguments are going to have the same halacha. And I wouldn't have known that if we didn't say it. If we would only said that the case where he found it, then I would have understood. I would have said Metzia who when he found it. Just 1 second. When he found it, we would say that he has to take an oath. Why? Because he could rationalize for himself the following. Say, my friend isn't losing anything. It wasn't his item before, he never paid for it. We're both walking on the street. I know that he found it also, but it's not a big loss for him because he never had it beforehand. So let me go and I'll just grab onto it and we'll split it. Sometimes they give out things and two people and grab the same one. And say, well, you're not losing anything. It was all for free before we started. It was all the handouts. So I'm not really stealing if I take it. So therefore, they imposed an oath on him to make sure that no, it's the second that matters. That second, who picked it up first, is going to make the difference over here. And if we don't put an oath on him, he's going to think that what I did was okay. But when it comes to business, so one person paid for it, and what's he concerned about? That he's going to lose the money. Rashi says, this is an item that he needed. That's the fact that he's buying it. So now I'm causing him a loss because this is an item that he needed. Okay, so therefore we could think that maybe by mekach memkar, by buying the mekach memkar, it's buying and selling. If he's buying the talis, then he would know that he's not allowed to just grab it. The other guy was trying to buy it. That's why he went into the store to get it. He also wanted it, but the other guy wanted it also. So because this is something that he came for, it wasn't just something that they found on the street that no one needed, right? So he would know that he shouldn't be grabbing it and saying that half is mine. So we don't have to put an oath on him. So comes the Mishnah and says, no, you have to put an oath on him even in that case as well. If we would only say that case, we are buying and selling where we think that you really don't need an oath. And the Torah says that, in the Mishnah says that you do have an oath. So then, why does it have to say by finding something? If you need an oath by buying and selling, for sure that you don't need an oath. If you need an oath buying and selling, for sure you need an oath by finding it. So I could have thought like this: if it was Mekach Memkar, who the Rami Rabban Shvola, he could rationalize by Mekach Memkar the opposite, by buying and selling. He would rationalize himself, saying, I paid, just like he paid. I know he paid for it and he wanted it, but I also want it. I gave the money also. What's the difference? I'm not stealing. So I could rationalize when I grab onto it and we end up in court saying, what do you mean? I gave the money too. But now I need it. Let him go find it somewhere else. There's other stores. He'll go get it from another store. But by finding an object, you can't say, go find another lost object. What do you mean? It's not available. You just, if you find it, then it's like a treasure you found. You can't rationalize. So a malay, I would say that he doesn't need an oath when to finding something, because he knows that he shouldn't be grabbing it. The other guy found the treasure and he didn't. So, but nevertheless, shricha, we say that we impose an oath on even by that case as well. So in other words, the oath here is to avoid the rationalization that they can make by thinking that they're doing nothing wrong. The Gemara asks the obvious question: why don't we see who paid the money? Let's go ask the seller. The Gemara says, the seller took money from both of them. One of them was a willing sale, and the other one he says, "Look, I don't want to sell it to you. I want to sell it to the other guy." Those days, an item wasn't like you have a store full of things. You have one talis. You make it with talis at a time or something. That's why they made a shachianu. Today you walk into a store, a clothing store. There's a suit there for everyone, every size, everything. So that's why it's not the big simcha. Olden days, you had to actually have it made, and it was a big job, right? So, and you got a suit for the wedding, if you're lucky. That was it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe for the bar mitzvah.
Oh, this is all day long reminiscence.
Okay, so the Gemara says that he took it from. He doesn't remember which one he sold willingly, which one he sold not willingly. Now Rashi takes that out because Rashi doesn't want to give all that authority over to someone that has no say anymore. Because what do you mean the seller? The seller is going to now decide on this halacha. He doesn't have the object in it. If he was still holding the object, he could say, "No, I sold it to you," and hand it. But now that it's in the hands of two other people, who gives him the right to say, that the Zeus it is. So Rashi takes those words out. He just says that he doesn't know. He doesn't know, but not like if he would know, we would actually trust him. Yeah.
Lose, you lose.
What's it say? We'll come with the example. Like for example, today
Equal to
sometimes
snooze.
the airlines like oversell the planes.
Right.
And then there's people that are left out.
Right.
What would be the right thing there?
Right. The first people. Well, the first guy, he got the seat. Yeah, Hill is saying, what about the airlines that give seats to too many people? They overbook.
Gotta split the seat.
One on the wing.
One is Midaite, one is
My
Balkache.
friend says here that there's a whole shukul, but the bottom line is, he says, the Rashba says that the two people, neither of them have a kinyan without the other. They become shuk.
Right.
And so Zachin la'adam shalei v'fana.
Oh, very good. Because
Very
my
good.
good.
That's it at the end.
Right. Yeah.
I saw that also.
Right. So you're saying that,
Daf Yud.
yeah. So you're saying that the first person's Kenyan didn't really take the fast until the other guy
Yeah,
picked it up.
because it was on the ground.
Uh-huh.
Have both of them. Mention yet. If it's a heavy item and they were both needed to carry, like they were both pretty high.
Right. 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 That's a different concept. Okay. Gemara now says, "Lema masnisid like bananas." Yeah. Taisus argues on Rashi. Taisus says that if this owner, the seller, would have testified who he sold it to, then that would exempt him from an oath. Yeah. It would exempt one of the buyers from an oath.
It's good to keep receipts.
Yeah. Okay. The Gemara says, like bananas. Let's say that our Mishnah does not fit with bananas. It was bananas. He was a friend of Rabbi Akiva, I think. The bananas, if it would be, the bananas, if it would be according to bananas, Amar, he says, you can't have two people swearing when one of them could be lying. And
Whoa.
the case of bananas was that if a guy tells his son or his worker, he says, go take your payment from the store on credit, and I'll go pay the storekeeper. So the storekeeper gives it to the guy, and all's good. Only problem is the worker comes back to the balabas, says the storekeeper didn't give me anything. The storekeeper comes to the balabas and says, you owe me the money. I gave it to him. So now there's a whole argument going on that has nothing to do with the balabas, right? There, it's really an argument between the storekeeper and the worker. So what we should do is both should swear. Should both swear. This guy should swear that I got them, that I didn't get the money. This one should swear I gave the money. And then it says, but how could you have them both swear? One of them is a liar. We don't want to impose a shvua sheker, right, on someone that's when we know definitely that one is a liar. We don't want to treat oaths like that. Just impose it, and then when one's lying. So according to bananas, we shouldn't have shvuas over here either, because one of them is lying. The Gemara says, "I feel tim bananas." It's not so. What's the halacha over there, by the way, is that each one, the balabayas, has to pay twice. He has to pay his worker because the worker claims he never got it. He has to pay the storekeeper because the storekeeper said he gave it. Yeah, according to bananas. According to the Rabbanon, we would say that they take an oath. According to so we're saying our mission doesn't fit with bananas. It says no. But here there's for sure a false oath. Over here, we could say that it's not a false oath. It could be that they both picked it up exactly at the same moment. So since there's a possibility that they're both saying the truth, so it's not like we're imposing a false oath. Could be that they picked it up at the same time, so therefore each one swears that they don't have less than half. Let's say our Mishnah is not like Sumchas. Sumchas, his opinion was, if an animal is being exchanged for a donkey, a cow for a donkey, and then the person pulls the donkey and the cow is being acquired by the other one as soon as he pulls it, right? One person owned the cow, one person owned. So when they come to the cow, they see that it had given birth. And the question was, had it given birth before the donkey was pulled or after the donkey was pulled? Does it belong to the seller or to the purchaser? Depending on when the cow had the calf, when it was born. So Simcha says you have to divide it. Simcha was a student of Reb Meir. Yeah. Now, what would Simcha say in our case? Simcha would say you divide it without an oath. Over there, they didn't have an oath. Over here, we divide it without an oath. Simcha's other case was an ox gores a cow, and then we see that there's a dead fetus on the side. The question is, did it die from the goring, or did it die before? Was it a miscarriage before the goring? So also over there, Simcha says you just divide the loss. You pay for half the loss. So over here also, we should just say that you just divide it, cut it in half. Because Simchas, if it would follow Simchas, so Simcha says that whenever you have a doubt about money, you just divide it, and even without an oath. So over here also, we should divide it without an oath if we would be following Simchas. Gemara says, "Velamai Rabbanan." So what do you want to do? You want to say it's the opinion of the Rabbanan? Amri, they say, they say you have to bring proof. We won't be able to do anything until someone is going to bring witnesses. The Gemara says, "Hi, Mai. 1 second. If we would say that's the opinion of the Rabbanan, over there in that case, where you don't have two people holding on to it, talking about the cow that gave birth, they're not both holding on to the fetus saying it's mine. They say if you want to prove that was yours, then you have to prove that it was born after the purchase, right? Otherwise, it will belong to the original owner. But over here, the tafsi tarbayo, that both are holding it, then the Rabbanan would say that you could divide it because it's in their hands. So we could fit the Mishnah with the Rabbanan because our case is very different from that. But if we say it's sumchas, hashta, I know the case is different, but the fact that the case is different over there, you don't have both people holding on to the fetus, but to the calf. But hashta, if you take a look at it like this, when I don't have both of them holding on to it, I consider it both of theirs, even when they're not holding it. They divide it without an oath. So over here, the tavayo tapsila, where they were both holding it. So for sure, it should be divided without an oath. They have it in their hands. Just cut it in half, and whatever they're holding is theirs. Like Kolshkin, for sure, it should be without an oath. Gemara says, "Afilu tema sumchas." We could say that our Mishnah does fit with sumchas, even though sumchas over there says divide without an oath. But over here, it would be different. Why? When does sumchas say that you divide without an oath? That's only because each one says, "I don't know when it was born." The other one says, "I don't know when it was born." So, okay, we don't know. Okay, so we'll divide it. Aval bari, but maybe when each one claims it's 100% theirs, it's totally mine. This one says it's totally mine. And maybe over there, Simcha says that you divide it with an oath. Maybe he never said that. So it could be because the claim is different that we would change, that Simchus would change his halacha, that even though he says you divide it without an oath, but over here, because they're each claiming that it's 100% theirs, it's not that they don't know. If we had the claiming that it's theirs, we would say that they have to make an oath. So the Rabba bar Rav Huna the Amar, according to Rabba, the son of Rav Huna, he said in that Gemara, he says, Amar Sumchas afilu bari bari. That Sumchas would say the halacha even if each one was 100% definite. That's the case. It doesn't fit with Sumchas. Over here, everyone's definite. We say that we have an oath. Sumchas says you don't have an oath. And according to Rabba bar Rav Huna, even when it's bari bari, it means definite. It's supposed to Shema. Shema means maybe. Gemara says it's still a big difference. Let's translate it as a loss of money. Simchas, this different translations for this. When does Simchas say? How does it say over there? A loss of money. Okay. When does Simchas say that you divide it without an oath, that's when one person would have a loss of money, or each of them would have a loss of money. But if there's no loss of money, why is there no loss of money? Because each one just found it. It's not something that they had owned previously. So then maybe it says that you have to take an oath.
If one did a king and a quarter, there's a loss of money.
Exactly. Exactly. But there could be a ganav over here, right? That's what I was going to ask in a moment.
One of them is.
Yeah, but since it wasn't something that they had before, so the Gemara now says, should be the opposite. Over there, in that case where there's a loss of money to each one, this one has a loss, this one, depending on who was the owner of that cow and who was the owner of the fetus. We could say that it was really 100% one of theirs. When it's not logical to divide it, Sumcha says you divide it. That was the rationale over there. Why are they splitting it? No one claimed that it was half. Why are they splitting it? But nevertheless, that's what Sumcha says. Whenever you have a doubt, you divide it. Even without an oath. But over here, where you don't have a loss of money, you can even say that it's both of theirs. Like Kolshkin, for sure we should divide it. Over there, when it's not rational to divide it, it's not possible for that to be the actual halacha that they each own half. And nevertheless, you divide it. So over here, where it is possible that they each own half because they picked it up together, for sure we should divide it without a shvua. The Gemara says, "I feel tema simchas." Can really say that it is simchas. And shvuazim midarabanan here. This is what we were looking for the whole day. That this is a rabbinic institution. Kidder Rabbi Yechanan, like Rabbi Yechanan taught. Dam Rabbi Yechanan said, "Shvuazu takanas chachammi." This oath, this oath is a takanas chachamim. It's a institution from the sages. We shouldn't have people walking around grabbing things from that someone is holding on to and saying that it's his or half is his or the whole thing is his. And then what do? They just divide it. It would be a tactic for people to get half items by just walking around saying the whole thing is mine. And then the guy has to give him half in court.
So they don't do that.
So in order so that they don't do that, we impose an oath, because an oath is something that people would take more serious. If we would just divide it like Simchas is suggesting, then people would be grabbing onto things and saying, well, half is better than nothing.
Does this apply on land also? Like I say, this is my land, you say it's your land.
That you'll have to wait for
California.
Ukraine. I mean, the whole thing about land. It's my land, your
that
land.
you have to wait for Baba Basra. But Taisus over here discussed that on the first page. But in Baba Basra, you'll have a lot of that. Okay. We're holding now by another option. Let's say the author of the Mishnah doesn't fit with Rabbi Yossi. Let's say that our Mishnah doesn't fit with Rabbi Yossi. Because if it would be Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi says in Kin Mai Hefsid Ramai. Rabbi Yossi is talking about a case where there's two people that made a deposit by one person to guard the money, to watch the money. One of them gave $100. Other one gave $200. When it comes to collecting, each one claims he's the one that gave the 200. So the Rabbanan say, okay, you return 100 to each. In 100, you have to leave. Don't return it to anyone until Eliyahu Navi comes. Leave it. Rabbi Yossi says that if the liar is getting his $100 back, so then he's going to do that all the time. So why is he losing out? So rather, Rabbi Yossi says everything has to be put aside. If that's everything has to put aside, so we should say the same thing over here. Everything, the talus should be put aside. Whenever they argue about it, okay, confiscated, put it aside. Wait for Eliyahu Navi to come. Elamai. So what do you want to say? Rabbanan. I want to say it's the Rabbanan. Given that Rabbanan Shayim Menachat Shevelio, Hainami Kashai Dami. The Rabbanan would say in this case that you would have to put the talus away also. Because what did the Rabbanan say over there? That part of what they agreed to, they get. Right? There was $300. Two of them we knew where they belonged. One of them we didn't. So the one we give to this guy, one give to that. But the one that we don't know, You have to put aside. So according to the Rabbanim, this is the whole talus over here is that one that you should put aside. According to the Rabbanan, it doesn't fit either. Umar says, 1 second. Hi, man. If we would explain it's the Rabbanan, over there, it definitely belongs to one of them. So we don't know which one, we put it aside. But over here, there is a possibility that it belongs to both of them. Why? Because maybe they both picked it up. Tell us they picked it up at the same time. So I'm Rabbanan Palgi B'Shvu. Over here, the Rabbanan would say maybe that you could divide it because there is potential that they're actually getting exactly what they're claiming. Not what they're claiming, but there's the way our psak is actually potentially correct that they both picked it up together. But if you say it's Rabbi Yossi, over there, look, definitely 100 belongs to one, 100 belongs to the other. But nevertheless, but over here, there's over there definitely 100 belongs to this guy, 100 belongs to that guy, and we're still not giving it back. Over here, it could be that the whole thing belongs to one of them, and you're saying that you're dividing it. So for sure, it can't be Rabbi Yossi. I feel it came Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara answers it really could be Rabbi Yossi. Over there, there's a liar. Over here, who says there's a liar? Maybe they both picked it up together, and they're assuming that each of them acquired the whole thing. Okay. Umar says, Inami, or else Hasam Kanasle Rabbi Yossi Rabbani Kiechad the lady. Over there, Rabbi Yossi imposed a penalty so that the one that's lying should admit. He says, okay, we're not giving anything back. And the liar will come forward and say, well, at least, okay, fine, just give it to him. I'm fine, at least just give me the mine. Because he realized he's losing his $100.
The other guy's losing his $100.
He's losing his $100. Over there, each one gave 100. One of them gave 200. So the guy's claiming, I got 200. The liar that's claiming that will admit, because he's not getting anything now. He wants at least his 100, so he'll admit. So Hacha might say this lady, but over here, where it was an object that they found, he's not losing anything. So why should he admit? So maybe this whole penalty of confiscating it until Eliyahu comes is only for the outcome that the person should admit. But over here, there's no point because why should he admit? He's not losing anything if he doesn't admit.
But he just wants the other guy to lose 200.
Maybe.
Vengeance.
Right. That was the Teinach Metzia. This you can say when it comes to a found object. But Mekach Memkar, Mayikal Meimer, over there is a loss of money. The guy, each of them paid for it, we said. We just didn't remember. We said that each of them paid for it. We just didn't know which one was the one that actually bought it. But the money is by the seller. So there is a loss of money. Maybe he would admit. Rather, the correct answer is not the loss of money, so that he should admit. The correct answer is it possible that this psak is actually the truth? Half and half, 50-50. And since it's possible that there's no liar here, and this is the actual outcome that they actually own it, so then Rabbi Yossi could agree that this is that he would do this in this case, that we divide it with an oath. Whether we go like the Rabbanan, whether we go like Rabbi Yossi, when it came to that case where there was a storekeeper that told the homeowner told the storekeeper, told his worker, go take money from the storekeeper on credit and I'll pay for it. Diktani, and over there it was taught, the Rabbanan held that each one takes an oath. Bananas held not. The Rabbanan held each one takes an oath, and the homeowner, the Balabayas, has to pay twice, once to the worker and once to the Maishna, the Layamrina, Nafkil and Balabayas. 1 second, there's an argument over there. Why don't we take out, just like we did with that third mana, that third $100, according to the Rabbanan, according to Rabbi Yossi, for sure, you take the third money and you put it aside. Why don't we do that over here as well? Take the money and put it aside. Why does he have to pay both of them? You should just take $100 and put it aside. We don't know who it belongs to. He definitely has to pay one of them, but they're each claiming the same $100. So just put it aside. One of them is for sure lying. Yeah, it's a good question. The Gemara says, "Amri Hasam over there, each one has a valid claim. The storekeeper tells the homeowner, says, I did exactly what you told me. You told me that I should give him money. I gave him the money. Why? What are you telling me that now I have to make a din Torah together with this worker? You told me to give the worker. I gave the worker. You told me you're going to pay me, so pay me. Even if this guy is going to swear to me, I don't trust him. He's not my. I don't do business with him. You told me I should give him, and you're going to pay me, so I gave him. But now you're telling me I have to have a din Torah with him. I don't have nothing to do with him. I don't trust him, and I'm not going to court with him. You're the fellow that believed him. You and me, the storekeeper tells the Balabayas, you owe me money directly. You never told me that I have to give him with witnesses. You believed him, so that's your problem. The worker also tells the homeowner, look, I worked for you. What are you telling me with this storekeeper? Even if he's going to swear to me, I don't trust him. I'm not going to a din Torah with him. I did work for you. You pay me. So since each one has 100% claim from the Balabayas, we can't take them both, put them together, and make this new din Torah. Each one says, I never would have done business with him. Therefore, both of them swear and they take from the Balabayas directly.
How are they able to swear on a claim? I thought they can swear on their own claim, not swear to get money from somebody else. The different swearing here from the other case. When each one says, this is mine, I swear this is mine.
It's yours.
All right? It's different from, you owe me money, I swear you owe me money.
Right. Usually the oaths are to exempt from payment.
Right,
not to extract money. And over here it's different. You're right. That's a good point.
Isn't this trying to say this is mine? I'm trying to deprive you of yours. The affirmative action of the acquiring.
You mean when he owes him money?
No, I'm saying when you acquire it.
Oh, you're talking about the talus, or you're talking about the workers? The talus?
What he's saying.
Yeah, the talus is each one is keeping the part that he's holding, but when you're trying to take money from this homeowner because he owes it to you, you're swearing and then you're going to take money. Okay, let's leave it over here.
So is that another I hear?